What is resurrection? Well, I suppose it depends on who you ask. The Gospel presents several descriptions of experiences of resurrection. There's the experience of an empty tomb with folded grave clothes. There's the experience of Mary, seeing someone she supposed was the gardener, only to recognize him as Jesus when he called her name. And there's the account from today's Gospel. It tells of a meeting with a stranger on the road, only recognized by the disciples as the risen Lord when he broke bread and gave it to them. In the Gospel stories, people had different experiences of the same thing. There are different experiences people are having now of the same thing. We're not sure of an exact number of COVID-19 cases, but for those for which we have confirmed diagnoses, people have different stories of their encounters. Some people report only a mild cough. Others recount having had symptoms of nasty flu. And still, others find themselves in intensive care wards, on a ventilator, fighting for their lives. It's the same thing, the same virus, but people experience it for whatever reason differently. Some are asking themselves, have I had the virus already? Or do I have it now? There are no clear answers to these questions while self-isolating at home. In fact, for some, symptoms may disappear just as mysteriously as they appeared. Was that coronavirus, they'll wonder? And it may be some folk will never know if what they had was COVID-19 or something else. Therefore, some conclude this must be a dream. It must be made up. Some call this whole thing a hoax. If there's no consensus, maybe it doesn't exist. If there's not one universal experience and definition, no precise, uncluttered explanation, there must be no such thing as coronavirus. That strikes me as a feeble understanding of biology, for there is considerable genetic variation in our species. In our strands of DNA, clear communication doesn't always happen. Not every gene gets the same message or interprets it the same way. And people respond differently too. I don't just mean some people will emotionally react differently to different stimuli. I mean physically, people as organisms will react and respond to things differently. For some, this virus will just not take hold to their bodies. For others, it will take them down. Understandably, folk are struggling to make sense of what's happening. There aren't clear, unequivocal answers right now. There are good theories, and there's proper research going on. But there are also a lot of different reports and responses. Our gospel stories present a similar scenario in the aftermath of Jesus' death. People struggled with resurrection, what it looked like, how it worked. Why didn't the disciples recognize their best friend and teacher when they saw him? Why did folks struggle to talk about what happened? Why hasn't this happened again? The disciples might have asked themselves, did I dream that? Was this some kind of projection? And those are legitimate questions. The questions we have of something, or the variance it has from our experience or expectations, does not mean that something didn't happen. Just because we don't understand something, or it's complicated and requires a considerable amount of investigation, doesn't mean it isn't something worth examining and even taking seriously. And I submit to you that all of this, is worth taking seriously. The meaning of this life, our present situation, and how we got here deserves real engagement, not turning our heads away from what's going on. People's experience of the resurrected Christ differs, just like so many things. We could choose to disregard the complexity of it, its contradictions and incomprehensibility. We could seek to define something narrowly by only one manifestation and expression. We could imagine this whole experience as one big practical joke. Yes, we could, but I, for one, will not. To dismiss something out of hand for lack of harmony and unanimity of vision is to deny the reality of how the world works in our human experience. There are no easy answers. And if that's what you're looking for, you're going to struggle with a lot of things, not least of which is resurrection. For it, along with God, cannot be so narrowly defined as to make no room for surprises or variance or transformation. Just because we don't fully understand something does not mean it's a con.